Hello and welcome to another episode of the All About Ability podcast. I hope you all enjoyed our recent live stream on Halloween with comedian and actor Darren Connell. We got dressed up in costumes and it was a great laugh, and he also really shared some inspiring mental health advice to anyone that needs it. So it was a great episode and I really enjoyed talking to him. But today we have England Powerchair football captain John Bolden, who is one of the best Powerchair football players in the world today, recently winning the English Premiership Player of the Year. He's taken England to World Cup finals and European Championship glory and all these different amazing tournaments. John has achieved so much throughout the game, and it was a real pleasure to talk to him. You could see his leadership qualities come through in the way that he speaks, and how his whole journey with football materialised was really quite amazing to learn about and listen to. So I hope the Powerchair football community enjoy this one and it was worth the wait. This podcast is sponsored by KO Financial, specialists in mortgages and protecting your family's finances. Whether you're looking for the best mortgage for you or want to make sure you and your family aren't struggling if you are seriously ill or pass away, call KO Financial on 0141 447 0290 or email advice@kfinancial.co.uk for more information. So yeah, enjoy and let me know what you all think. Okay, so I'm here with England captain John Bolden. How are you doing today, mate?
I'm good, Kieran. Thanks for having me on.
It's great. I've been really looking forward to it, and I mentioned quite some time ago that I was going to be having you on, and I keep having messages from the Powerchair football community being like, "When's John Bolden coming on?" so it's,
yeah, I've seen you've been a busy lad, so I've had to wait my turn.
Yeah. When I first approached you to come on the podcast, something that really kind of struck me from what you said was that you had a lot of goals, kind of as when you were younger, about having your own house and being a dad and doing all these kind of independent things, and mentioned how Powerchair football kind of helped you set more goals and have the confidence to go and achieve those things.
Yeah.
And what do you feel that Powerchair football did to offer you that kind of thing?
Well, like I say, when I grew up, I always drive and strive for something. So I always like you said, I set myself goals that I wanted to achieve in life, and that was obviously have a house, have a full-time job, get married, and have a child, basically. And when I was obviously growing up, Powerchair football wasn't really there, and it wasn't until I was around 15 that Powerchair football came into my life. And so obviously I still hadn't achieved all of what I wanted to in my personal life, but then when Powerchair football came along, it gave me them extra goals that I set myself, as in want to represent my country, want to win titles, want to win European Championship, World Cups, etc. And so they just added to the list. And I feel in life you need to set yourself goals, because otherwise you could just live life not pushing to be the best that you can be, And that's what it done. And what Powerchair football has given me since it came into my life, it's been incredible. Like, I wouldn't have met half the people I've met in my life that have made a massive influence on it. And the friends and the places I've been to and the emotions that I've been through in my life, majority of them have been down to Powerchair football. And so I'll be eternally grateful for the sport being involved in my life.
Yeah, I feel very much the same, and I'm sure a lot of Powerchair football players listening to that can relate to that. In terms of that kind of mindset and how you talk about setting goals from quite an early age, and you also spoke about how important your dad is to your Powerchair football career and how much he's encouraged you. Was he a big part in helping develop that mindset, and in what way were you encouraged to have that kind of mindset?
He didn't never made it clear that this is what we have to do, but obviously having a disability, you're always challenged in life anyway. And when I was born, obviously I got diagnosed at 2 years old, and they said that I'll never be able to walk again. And my parents, I think majority of disabled parents, majority of parents who've got disabled kids, don't just like to be told that they can't do nothing or it can't be done. you'll continue to push to try and get that prove them wrong, you know. And so that was my parents' aim, to try and get me the best help, to get me to walk. And obviously growing up, I then had leg braces and I walked unaided, you know, well, not unaided, but with my leg braces, which is something that the doctors never said that I could do. And so it kind of stemmed from then, that I'm never going to be told that I can't do something. And if you put your mind to it, you can do it. And so I just, like I said before, if I don't set myself targets, I don't feel like I'm constantly pushing myself to be the best that I can be in my life. And so that's personally why I set myself targets, because I'm never happy for just medium. I want to be the best, or the best at what I can do.
Yeah, that's a very strong message, and you can see that in the way that you play the game and the way that you've carried yourself for this amount of time. I've often talked about how preparation in terms of like physical fitness and having, you know, been mentally aware of what's best for me and how I can maximise my own game potential is important for going into a big game. You know, like for example, like the World Cup final in 2012, things like that. So, what is your kind of pre-game routine look like in terms of how much do you prepare off the pitch in order to perform on it?
So we, obviously working from England, we've had the privilege of having the psychologists and the nutritionists and stuff like that. So they kind of came on board in 2013, 14. I'd say before that, I never really focused on the pre-match stuff, because I guess I was kind of young back then and I didn't really think it made a massive difference. And so I just rock up, and I probably haven't had the best night's sleep. I've probably been playing Xbox, or, you know, woke up, didn't have no breakfast, that kind of thing. But once the FA fully came on board and I had access to the people that have a lot of knowledge on the subject, it kind of opened up a whole new world and made me focus on stuff like going to bed early, making sure I've got enough sleep, having a pre-match routine, which is obviously having a certain amount of food, knowing how long I need from waking up to actually being at my full potential before I play a match. So it might be like if I've got a 9:15 kickoff, if I need 2 hours to wake up and be ready, I've got to get up at 7 o'clock, 7:15, to know that I'm at my full potential when kickoff comes. But yeah, coming with England's made me realise a lot of that. And obviously Erin Pryor, she's our sports psychologist, and she's working with us individually and as a team. She's made me focus on things that I never did before. And the Euro final last year, she gave me a talk the day before the final, and just things that she says like sticks in your mind. And I think if you speak to a lot of England guys, that made the difference between us walking away semi-finalists losing and winning it. Because like being in a position of 2-0 down against France in the final, I don't think any people would have given us a chance of coming back, you know?
Yeah, that's a really good point, and I was actually about to go into that. The fact that previously in the tournament you'd lost 3-0 to them in the group stage, I believe, and you'd already spoke about how in previous interviews about the fact that you felt as if you kind of had that speech prepared for losing those big games and having to say, I'm sorry we didn't do it this time, and we'll do it again next time, and we'll keep going. So in terms of when you've already lost them in earlier on in the tournament, and you're in the final and you're 2-0 down with 10 minutes to go, how what was the difference? Was the difference really the psychology side of it?
That was a major issue. Obviously, never to let our heads drop. We know how talented us individual players are, and as a team, we can be. The only difference we made, well, the advantage we had was because we lost them in the group stage. We could look at the video and make adjustments in the final, which obviously prior to the loss in this group stage, we never played them with technology, you know. So we couldn't analyse what we could do better. And we spent a good hour, 2 hours studying the footage and making tactical changes in the final, obviously to rectify what we'd done wrong in the group stage. obviously the first goal was kind of I don't know, maybe a positioning error on my behalf, which let in the first, and then the second one was just a free goal kick that went wrong, really, or a free kick that went wrong with open goal. And so we know if we still stuck to what we believed in, that's one thing as a group. We go into the tournament with the same mindset of playing a certain way, but sometimes when it goes wrong, we tend to revert back to old type. And coming from the World Cup in Florida, we agreed in Finland we wouldn't do that. We would stick to what we know, and if it doesn't go right, then it doesn't go right. But at least we stuck to our principles, and so that's what we've done. Carried on throughout the final, and 2-0 down, we still continued to play, still tried to work the ball as much as we could, passing, moving, and thankfully it paid off.
Yeah, and that says a lot for, in terms of, you look at a country like France, who people could say, in terms of individual talent, that such a strong side. So really finding that philosophy and way of playing is really important to try and get to compete with those guys, never mind actually beating them in a final.
That's the changes we made. We saw in the group stage that they dribble. They're very good.
Yeah.
They're probably the best dribbling team, or Momo especially is one of the best dribblers in the world. So that's kind of the change we made. We weren't going to go into contact with them during the pitch, because we know they'll majority of the time win, get past us, and that's us out of the game. So what we've done, we kind of like soaked up the pressure, let them then try and pass the ball around our box. And we know we're better passers than they are when it comes to team things, and we'll just pick off when they make a loose ball, and then we'll counter attack from there. And as you saw, our 2 goals was from one of their corners and one of their set pieces, which we then counter attacked and scored up the other end. So our tactics kind of came through, but kind of after we went 2-0 down.
It's really interesting to hear that, because I feel as though the tactical side of Powerchair football is kind of underestimated in most countries.
Very much so.
England are doing really well, but when you look at the gap between England and France, compared to England, France, and maybe America and Australia, compared to like every other country, including Scotland, kind of thing. What would you say countries like Scotland and Ireland and countries like that to try? What is required from us to try and develop to that next level?
Obviously, the coaching helps. Obviously, if you think about the countries you just said, they've been playing the sport for a long, long time. And even before we started playing, France, Japan, America have been playing it a long time before us. So we were trying to catch up, and it is all about developing individual skills. As you individually get better, your whole team will going to get better. And it's the coaching skills. It isn't just someone coming in and just like a dad of a player or something and just thinking, oh yeah, just stick him there, and it'll be fine, and we'll score some goals and we'll let in some goals. It's not like we've got Colin Gordon as our manager, and he used to be a professional footballer. He's been involved in the sport throughout his life, and so the knowledge he brought into our squad just made us look. He's the one that wanted to play the 4 out, and now we're playing that. Loads of teams are playing it because they've seen how well it works when it works well. But you can't just play 4 out and not have the players that are capable of doing the object of the tactic, and have the confidence to do so. And the confidence comes from the coaching side, the philosophy side, and there's a whole combination to get to the level that we're at, but not without hard work from every person. That involves the coaching staff. They can't just rock up to a session and think, oh, I'll just think of something to do when we get there. There's got to be planning prior to the session, and they want to get out of the session what they want to, obviously, the team to play to.
Well, what I really like about it is it makes the sport better to watch. It's a more fluid way of watching it, because ultimately nobody really, if you watch a game and you see Kev dribbling all the time, we understand, like myself and you know how difficult it is to dribble past somebody, but somebody looking from the outside in just sees, doesn't quite understand the skill element there, and wants to see the ball moving, and wants to see, a fluid game. So England are really leading the front in it and making sure that the sport has a chance to become more mainstream.
like you say, it's a sport for the people, you know. And if we're like enticing people to come and watch it, and it's this boring game where it's just two chairs dribbling alongside each other, it's not going to get them coming back to watch more, is it?
Yeah.
And that's our job as players and coaches. That all right, we want to win games, but we want to make it entertaining. We want to make people come and think, oh yeah, there's going to be a few goals in this game, and not just a 0-0 dribbling slog where you might get a goal here and there. So that's our job as players and coaches, to make it attractive for the people that are viewing it, maybe for the first time or coming back for a second time.
Yeah. When you spoke about like the comeback in the final, one thing that really comes through is your competitiveness.
Mm-hmm.
And you've spoken in the past about how your favourite thing in Powerchair football is the competitive part of it, which I do believe, as I say, that's lacking in disability sport in terms of how we promote the sport. And when you think of it from that side of things, it got me thinking about the coverage of an achievement like beating France in the final and winning the Nations Cup. Do you feel as though what can we do as a sport to showcase the athletic performance side of things and promote the sport in a better way?
Regarding what you said about disability sport in general, so when people come into my team at Aspire now, I tell them I'm not here to have fun. That's not what I'm about. I'm here to win stuff. And if you don't want to win stuff and be competitive in your place in the team, then you don't belong in Aspire. Because I'm past the fun session stage that we're just turning up and having a kick around. That's not for me anymore. Powerchair football's moved on so much that there are teams that are just starting up. So you can have a kick around and have fun there. But when you come to training, for me, it's we want to win to next game, and we want to win the Champions League, we want to win the Premier League, we want to win the Cup. And so I'm striving every player in my team to be the best that they can, and I want them to have the same mentality as I have. In regards to promoting the sport, it's a tough one, you know. Like, we can share footage, we can share streams, obviously live streams when they're happening. It's just hitting that one person that's in a certain place, like a TV studio or something, that can then help us push it to the next level. And for me, the Paralympics will do that, but it's whenever we get that stage to be in the Paralympics.
And that moves on to an interesting topic, the Paralympics. It's something I've spoke about quite a bit in this podcast with different guests, and previously spoke about how we're not in the Paralympics and why that was. Why aren't we in the Paralympics, and what do we need to do to get into it?
So obviously, as you know, well, you probably know, you can't enter a sport unless one drops out. And when one drops out, there's probably about 10 to 15 sports going for that one slot. Every time one drops out, we're always then part of a group that are then challenging for that one slot. So we've gone from this is my knowledge, obviously I don't know the full ins and outs. We've tried once and we didn't get successful. We then went again a couple of years later and we got past the first stage to the second stage, which is progression. And then they said no for some reason. I don't know the full reasons why. One of the problems we have is that the people that are saying no is down to the Powerchair itself. They, from what I hear, they can't understand that it's the player in the chair that's doing the work rather than the chair itself, you know. And they think because it's a Powerchair, it's down to the chair. But this is where I need people to get in the chair and show me that you can do what I can do, you know. And like you said earlier, when people are watching it, they're thinking that, oh, it's easy to dribble past someone. All right, well, come and show me that it's easy to dribble past someone. And we done something this year when we were raising money for the Champions League. We set up a kickabout day where able-bodied people pay to come and play in a team in a tournament. So every player on my team has the job of setting up a team of their own, of able-bodied people to come and play in a tournament against each other. And the amount of people that come off that pitch saying, well, how do you do that? Like, I can't even drive in a straight line. It's like, yeah, these are the people that now see what we go through to be the best that we can be. And if more people try Powerchair football, obviously to see the talent that us guys have, I think it will open their eyes a lot more to see how hard it is.
So you think there's like a lack of appreciation for how difficult the sport actually is?
I think exactly that, to be honest. And like I said, I'm not on the panel of people that push it. Like, obviously, there's a committee that put the case of Powerchair football to the Paralympic Committee. I don't know who they are, but we do it, and obviously they know all the full details. But my overall view is exactly what you just said.
Yeah. When I was looking into it, something that came up and kind of occurred to me as I was thinking about it was, we have all these different chairs, and every country has all these different rules. And when you look at the majority, if not every Paralympic sport, they're all under the same set of rules and the same umbrella. They're all kind of together in what the sport is and what they're trying to achieve. We spoke about how England focus on passing and moving, and France are more dribbling orientated. And even in the Geneva Cup, Tayside Demos went and played for the first time for a club from Scotland in Europe, and they were outraged when they were playing a French team and they dribbled the ball over the line, because as far as they were aware, that wasn't allowed. But in France, it is allowed. So if you're on the Paralympic panel, so to speak, and you're trying to get a good idea of what the sport's about, and then you go and watch a game in England, and you go and watch a game in France, and the rules in the sport is different.
Yeah.
How important is that? How do you think we can start to get all these associations to kind of put the differences aside and work together for the betterment of Powerchair football?
It's getting there. Like you say, also in Paralympics, they've got classification. A few years back, we never had classification in our sport. And so we have that now. So we are, again, one stage further along to being what they want us to be, I agree with you about the pushing over the line. Again, at the last Euros, last year, you weren't allowed to do that anymore. So France will take that away and then hopefully adapt their game to not include that. And obviously that comes down to the referees. So there's plenty of French refs and international refs at these tournaments that they can take it back to their club levels and interpret the game like everyone else is. And like, we need to have that set of rules at the top that everyone follows down. And there are people's interpretations of the rules, and hopefully that dribbling over the line is one that will change for the better now, and everyone will play to the same rules. But yeah, it's I think 95% of rules are the same within every club and league in the world. There are just them kind of little things that need ironing out, like you say, to make sure that we are all playing the same, and we don't have these discrepancies if the Paralympics challenge them.
Exactly, and like you say, we are early on in the process of classification and things like that, and it just comes down to on this kind of topic, you've got to be thinking, you've been playing the sport for 18 years now, which is quite a long time.
Oh boy,
almost as long as I've been born. I've been alive, which is mental to think in it. But obviously the sports came a long way since then. I know myself, because from when I started in Scotland, I'm one of the 4 players that were the very first session. The other 3 are unfortunately no longer with us, so I'm going solo from the first one, and being able to see the evolution between NHS chairs and using swimming goggles to having all these amazing chairs and equipment and things like that. We're obviously early in our process compared to England and things, but does it give you confidence when you see the progress that's made? What do you think the next 18 years looks like for Powerchair football?
To me, it's incredible to think what it can go to. Like you say, I've been playing such a long time. So when I started, we had car tyres, NHS chairs, huge footballs, no video footage, no live stream, nothing like that, and it was all self-funded stuff. And so it's kind of hard for me when people come into the sport over the last five, 10 years and say, oh, the sport's not really progressed that much over the last 5 years. All right, we've got video footage or whatever, but they don't see all of the hard work that went in prior to that to get to where we are today. And so many key figures in it have changed the way that Powerchair football is. And just like live streaming the matches now at our National League has made such a difference on us as coaches, us as players. We can actually look back and focus on our individual performance, our team performance, and maybe the coach's performance, And we've got that now, so we see the footage, obviously, when we're playing. The chairs always are going to be getting better over the years. So in 18 years' time, I don't know what the chair is going to be like then, to be honest. They'll probably drive themselves. Hopefully the ball will get smaller. That's what I want to happen. We're very talented people now, and I feel that we can play with a smaller ball as long as obviously the bumper hits the ball correct. Maybe smaller goals. I just think we can kind of more, now we're at a stage in our sport, we can kind of streamline it a little bit more towards the normal sport, like or normal football, with it like a smaller ball. Maybe also I hate the 2-on-1 rule for attacking. I understand the defensive side of 2-on-1. I agree that. I just feel like passing the ball in a smaller space is a lot harder than passing it wider, Mm-hmm. And so why punish a team that's trying to pass the ball within 3 meters correctly when it's harder, And so I hope some of the rules will change in a few years' time to reflect the progression of the game.
Yeah, that's a really good point about the 2v1 going forward. Because I've always felt that as well. You kind of you do a good pass, but it's, the person's like a metre too close to you, and you go, well, that was really hard to do that pass. Do you know what I mean?
Again, it's down to, I want the referees to get in the chair and show me that you can pass within 3 meters and make sure it's accurate, because it's the way I hope work is you can be as close as you want passing, but as soon as the defender touches the ball, if you're then within 3 meters, then it's a foul, because then it's kind of, when the defender touches the ball's overturned, which means then you're in the defensive team and you're then within 3 meters of the ball. That's how I want it to work, and I'm hoping that someone listening to this will change the rules.
And well, perhaps it makes the sport more fluid as well, in the sense of like you're always going to be going back and forth, like almost like the pace of a basketball game, rather than having it stopping every 2 minutes for a 2v1 here and there. And especially when I found that to be a big issue in Scotland when new players come in. It's easy knowing the 2v1 rule when you've been there and you know it. It's ingrained in you almost. But you come in, you're thinking about mainstream football. That's, your head is already in that, so you don't really understand why you can't go and make that close pass. And I think the point you make is really good, because it encourages better technical ability as well. So these are things that the sport can look at. For example, in Scotland, a lot of the things that we know now that seem obvious, they weren't so obvious at the time. I look back on the first game we had we played Middlesbrough, and we got absolutely hammered. But I actually thought our team was relatively strong in terms of individual people, but we didn't know how to defend, and Middlesbrough just tore us apart because we had one guy chasing around 3 players. And so those are. I feel as though. Do you think that countries like that, information needs to be more out there in terms of, you've talked about the quality of coaching and how important coaching has been to the England setup.
Yeah.
But it's not really something that's sort of that knowledge, and sharing that knowledge and encouraging more coaches to take part. Is that something that's kind of lacking in other countries, do you think?
Yeah, potentially. Because when it comes to the coaching side, you probably 8 out of 10 teams will play the same formation, which is your standard goalkeeper and your 3 out. And the 3 out just kind of they've got their set kind of positions, but they can mosey wherever they want, you know. And it's very rare that you see any other kind of formation on a pitch. And that is down to the coaches, because they've either just come into the sport and saw other games and that's how they've done it, and they've just kind of adapted their formation rather than thinking, oh, I'm going to play this certain way because I think this will revolutionise the sport for my team, which is what Colin done for us as England. And now my Aspire team, we try and emulate what England do. Obviously, we've not got the players at England level, but we've got good enough players to do it. West Brom have obviously done it in the last 3 years in our league, and they've been great at it. And obviously, quite a lot of their team are England players, and so they've pulled it off and played some great football throughout the years. And so it does take someone with just a different mindset to bring a different set of tactics and different instructions to the team that they're coaching, you know. And potentially it's because we haven't got workshops for coaches that could look at a bigger picture and try and make different tactics work for the sport, or it's just not having, I don't know.
It's almost like a lack of awareness about it all. I think a lot of coaches come in to the sport thinking this is exactly the same as Munich football, which is a problem. I found that to be, you know, it's good to be qualified and good to have all these things in Munich football, but you do need to recognise that the sport does have different aspects to it, different way of playing, and it's not exactly the same. And I feel like there's a lack of understanding, maybe that they are, they're fundamentally, they're still football, but they're different tactics, different elements to it that you need to understand in order for your teams to do well.
And one of the things that set out for me, do you listen to the WFA podcast?
Yes, yeah.
So at the end of some of them, people have been asking what rules would change, etc. And a couple of them have said the wall on set pieces where you got a defender, goalkeeper, defender. They want that rule scrapped. But that's not how you should be looking at it from a team. You should be looking at how I can get around that block. So if you think about it, you've got 3 of their players in a line, right? Which then gives you the whole of the core of your 4 players to get the ball past one player that's going to be loose around the edge of the box. Just play back, you know, play back, spread the ball. And that's it. That's down to the coach to entice that into the players to play back, not be scared to play back to your goalkeeper. Whereas people that want the rule changed is because they're not confident to play back to their goalkeeper and potentially spread the ball throughout the rest of the court where there's only going to be one less of their player roaming around, you know. And if you can't pass the ball between 4 players with basically one piggy in the middle guy, it's, you know, you need to improve on the passing, you know. And that's what I mean about the coaching side. Colin came in and he's like, okay, they're going to set up like that. Let's block their player on the edge of the box so he can't get out. That's then 3 of their players. I shouldn't be telling you our tactics, but 3 of their players are then blocked in the same area, which then allows us to pass the ball around this one person out in the middle, you know.
Yeah.
And that's the coach's mindset, which is what we needed at England to refresh everything. And it's paid off in the long run. But it's taking coaches like that needs to come in and give a different energy, I guess.
And you speak really highly of Colin and how much he's changed the setup in England and made the difference. And it's all about encouraging the players to play more than it is to change the rules. Yeah. And I think with that kind of mindset, it really helps the sport evolve. But as we talked about earlier on in the call how you've just now won the English Premiership Player of the Year for the first time in this your long tenure on the sport.
Yeah.
And it got me, you know, because I've been playing in Ireland for a short period of time. But in that period of time, whenever I always want to know, you know, who's the best, who can I improve the most to play against and stuff like that. And when I ask people who's the main man, the first name that comes to them is John Bolden, or every single person answers the question with your name. And it really got me thinking about you've been in the sport so long and you've seen it evolve. How much has the improvement of the English game and the different sides of it forced you to then improve and keep pushing on?
So much, mate. Like we have so many talented players in our sport, like not just in England, in the world, you know. And if you as a player think you're the best, there's always other people that are just could add in that extra training session each week to then get to your level within like, I don't know, 6 months. And if I sit at home for 6 months and not do nothing, and someone like Brad Bates has come on such 2-3 years, if I sit around for 6 months and do nothing, and he's training, why wouldn't he get to my level? You know, it's pretty easy. You know, there's the footage there now for people to look at me and say, oh, what does he do in this situation? Okay, well, maybe I'll do that in that situation. And so it's like there is everything out there for that player to improve if they want to improve. And that's what us at England have done. The way the team has come individually, like I could name every single player in that squad that went last year, the amount that they've proved over the last 2-3 years. And then as a team, when every player's improved individually, they come together as a team, it's pretty easy. You kind of just have to draw the lines to the dots that are already there, you know?
Yeah, and you know something that we spoke about there in terms of knowing that if you take your foot off the gas, they can surpass you. They can, take your spot, so to speak.
Mm.
And regardless of how long you've been in the sport, or how well respected you are, it comes down to that at the end of the day. And it got me thinking about the Scotland setup and wanting to mention something about that, which is we have like more, we don't have that big a pool of players, so anyone that's like a strike force has got a chance of being in the squad. But there's always like that kind of there's right now. I feel as though in Scotland there's a lot of players that are like they want to get into the team and want to get into the next level, but they feel as though they've been hard done by. Like they're not in the squad for unjust reasons, and it's not really fair, whatever the case may be. But it made me, as you were talking about, it made me want to stress, there's always room for the best.
What do they do? Them hard done by people? Do they sit home and sulk? Or do they think, no, I'm going to book a hall, improve on what the coach has said that I'm not in the team for, and get better? So then the next time around, I can show him that I've improved my striking, my dead ball pieces, my communication. And then, if I've improved that much, then tell me a reason why I'm not in the squad.
Yeah.
And if it comes back to the same reason, then it's not really valid because you've improved. And so unless some other players in the squad have improved as well, then fair enough. But if you've gone back with improvement on what the coach has said you're not in there for, then they've really not got a leg to stand on.
Yeah, because I was quite fortunate in the sense of like I used to be, the reason why I'm talking about that is because I used to be that person.
Right.
I used to be the person that was like, why do people not think I'm good, and why am I not getting recognised for such and such, and really had a negative sort of way of thinking about it. But I was fortunate that process for me was before there was a national team, before the sport had evolved. So I was able to figure it out, and then and as I figured it out, that was just when the national team started. So that process for me came before, much like yourself, before there was even a national team there.
Yeah, that's kind of like, you could say it was a benefit for me because when I started, there wasn't a national team, there wasn't a sport in this country. So every England team that's happened since I've been playing, I've been involved in because kind of I've had the advantage because I've been playing longer than everyone else. And so in the early stages of England, it was kind of, there's a pool of 10 good players in the league and you got to pick 8 from it. So it was quite easy to get in that squad,
Yeah.
But now if you ask anyone in the English league who your best 8 players for England would be, everyone would have a different 8 because there are so many decent players in our league. It's not easy to pick that 8 that would go to a competition, and that's a blessing to the coaching staff, but it's also, it proves how hard players have been working in our league to get to that next level. And it's only been down to hard work and dedication to the sport. And people take the sport how they want. If you want it to be fun, then there are teams for fun. But most players want the sport to progress. And to do that, it's not about fun anymore. It's about being professional and getting the sport to the next level and hopefully one day being on telly.
Yeah, exactly. And because I like to mention this because when you're talking about the way that England have evolved, and I've came down, I've got a taste for how the kind of gap between the standards. You have there's like this mindset, this kind of maybe arrogant mindset potentially of the gap probably isn't that big, but then when you go down and play in the league, I played in the Championship, and it became pretty apparent to me how different it was, and I would come back and I would train with my team in Scotland and be able to do some more things that I'd hadn't before, and they were like, "Oh, how did you learn to do that?" But this is why I like to speak about the off-field preparation and encouraging that more so, because you get players that come back, they'll say, I've trained a lot, and I've been hitting the ball about and doing, like you say, booking courts, but they haven't really improved. They haven't really pushed on, and that was the case for me for quite some time. Where I was putting in a lot of work, but there wasn't much progress to be seen. And I think, how important is it to be able to look at not just train, but train your weaknesses, not just train in a way that you think, I had a good session today, but actually look at it objectively and go, what is it I need to improve? And potentially, if you're struggling to hit a ball and struggling to do certain things, is it because of elements in your life outside of football that are causing that?
Very, very, very well could be. You might have had a bad morning and then you've gone to training and you've still got that thought in your head from whatever it was, that then you can't hit a ball, 5 out of 10 times, Going back to what you said before, you as a player have improved because of your determination to improve. So you've taken yourself out of your comfort zone by going to join another team in another league. That means traveling all that miles to be at the competitions, and then you've benefited, and so has your team now. That when you've gone back, you've learned a different side of the game because you've been involved in the other club. You've also experienced a lot, which more games under your belt, more teams that you've seen players to learn and pick up information off. And that's what I'm talking about, how people, it's up to them to want to progress and put themselves out to be the best that they can be. If you wanted to, you could have just stayed in Scotland, not experienced half of what you've done last season and not picked up any of the talent that you have, like extra, by just sitting at home. But you've not, you've put yourself out. And that's what I don't obviously encourage everyone to just go into another team to improve, but you can go to another team's training session. I'm sure they'll let you, and just spend an hour, 2 hours with them. And I'm pretty sure you'll pick up something that you didn't know prior to going. And it's just putting yourself out, And
yeah, I mean, you're totally right. And for me, that's why I like to talk about it, because I want to bring what I'm learning and take other Scottish players with me. Not down in England, but bring what I'm learning up to Scotland, and say we can, because I think we actually have a very good squad of players individually, a lot of talent there, a lot of, that we're all quite raw, but you can see there's potential there, and it's just about bringing up that kind of knowledge and saying this is the way we need to play. We need to start looking at how we're every aspect of the game and all these things. And you look at somebody like Logan Mitchelson, he's went down and joined one of the top.
Yeah, it's stopped, isn't he?
Yeah, and
trying out lockdown.
Well, exactly. His work ethic is a prime example of to play in Scotland and come down and play for one of the top teams in your league. Thunder are always there and thereabouts when it comes to the top. Yeah. So he's not looked at a place, to be fair. And
I've never had a chance to play against him this season because our league got cut short. We never actually got a chance to play Thunder this season. it's a bit of a shame, but yeah.
I can say that he's very excited to play against you when it comes. But the reason why I mentioned him and the reason why I'm talking about my own journey as well is because in terms of other players, it's about being able to kind of acknowledge that we're just getting started, and there is a lot of room for improvement, and not thinking, don't cut about thinking that we are the finished article here, because we're far from that, and it's trying to change that mentality, I suppose.
No one's a finished article, mate, and you can always there's never a perfect team. There's always going to be something that you can improve on, whether it's just mental side of things or actually on the pitch. And so, no one should ever think that they're at the top of their game individually or as a team, because there's always room for improvement.
And it's not so much. I do want to stress that I'm not like. My point about it is that when you play in Scotland and you're like maybe one of the best players in Scotland, you kind of you get this false idea maybe. And the only reason why I'm saying this, I'm not saying this for anyone else but myself, in terms of the way that I was able to see it when I look at how I thought maybe, I thought very highly of myself. I'm doing quite well at the top of the league. And
you have to have confidence in yourself, mate.
But it was like, I knew the league in England was great, but you go down there and you really realise how much there is to push on, and trying to. This is why I've spent some time talking about this, is because I want to emphasise that to the other countries and other players, and maybe Scotland and Ireland and Denmark that are trying to break that ceiling to compete with England and compete with those other, France and America. But I wanted to talk to you about leadership and how you've been the captain of England for quite a long time now. What in your opinion makes a good captain?
You get so many different personalities in your squad, and some are very strong, some are very quiet and timid, and it's how you approach them both on and off the pitch. Because I can shout something, criticising him. If I criticised him, he will just take it and get on with it. Whereas if I criticise someone else, maybe they might take it to heart and then just be down for the rest of the game. So you've got to know who you're speaking to, and obviously the things that you say on the pitch obviously you want to encourage them the best you can. And so knowing your team is probably the top of the list, to know how to be a captain both on and off the pitch. Off the pitch, I'm kind of like I like everyone together kind of thing. I don't like people going off doing their own individual thing, because then you start to maybe let your mind go, think about things that don't need to be thought about in that time, especially when you're at football. And so, I'm kind of a keep your team together, keep everyone's spirits up as much as you can, but obviously know that what players you've got and what kind of motivation they need to be at the best that they can be.
That is very well put, and I very much agree with everything you just said there. Because I had recently had the honour of being able to captain my country in February against in England and in Leeds. We were doing a wee friendly tournament, and the feeling of that was something that I'm desperate to keep a hold of. But when I think about in Scotland, we have I would say right now there's everyone knows there's two sort of main teams that are sort of in deadlock all the time, which are Clyde, my team, who are better obviously, but we're kidding on, Gary, don't get too offended. But we're always going back and forth for the title and stuff, and a lot of the squads are made up of, for example, when we went to Ireland, there was 3 Clyde players and 3 Tessie Dynamo players. And you could kind of, there's always a kind of natural divide there in terms of, we're always competing with each other. But then what's been a challenge, so to speak, is kind of taking that away for the national team and realising that Scotland is more important than whatever club you're at,
Yeah.
Was that ever a challenge for the England squad?
100%. I'm not gonna lie to you, mate. We've had many arguments within the team that well, I'm one of them. Like when it came to the last few squads, it's kind of been West Brom players have been the main crux of the England squad. And when it comes to the next team selection, obviously I'm always pushing for my club team players to be part of that squad. And when they're not, and I see them how hard they've been training at training and during the season, I want to question with the coaching staff why, they're not in. And so there's been, I wouldn't say many, but there's been a few times that I've questioned why. And but once we come to England, it's kind of like, there's been a few times that you mentioned, oh, I'll play for this team or I'll play for this team, but we kind of try and cut that out and say that when you come through the door at England, it's England. It's nothing about your club level. You're not allowed to wear any club kit because you're not part of that club anymore. It is, we're all striving for the same thing. We want to do well at international level. And I've won the league last year. It doesn't matter when you come to England. You're there to win a tournament. And some of the times that we had that little, you could say banter argument or whatever. But no, we've kind of at a point now where everyone appreciates that you're playing for England, and you obviously it's everyone's dream to play for England. So you don't really want to remember what club you're playing for.
And it's because I think it's good for people in Scotland and other countries to know that is always a factor. But once you get to the team and once it's already picked and set, that's you put that to bed. And exactly. I've made an effort. I've made an effort to get to know the players, and we all get along really well. And it's just realising that the future of the game and how we play is more important than whichever team lists any trophy at the end of the season. For you, in terms of Aspire, you've won a lot of trophies and league titles and such. But has it been sort of difficult to see the evolution of a team like West Brom and how strong they've become, and how hard is it to keep up with a team like that?
Yeah, it's been very hard, to be honest, because kind of like until about 5 years ago, we always had a manager like at Aspire, and that's where we won stuff and that. And then unfortunately his son stopped playing, so then he stopped managing. And then I naturally just took over. And so I'm player manager obviously at Aspire. And so as a manager, I've kind of obviously always wanted to win something. And I've managed to win one league title in that 5 years, I think, that I've been in charge. But yeah, like you said, the evolution of West Brom, it's been down pretty much to Chris. And obviously he's got his dad in the background with his knowledge. Obviously it's kind of a good thing that he's England, and, he can help Chris push that onto the squad. Yeah. But Chris has been so good with the way he's moved the players on and switching a few of their positions to Brad Bates, for instance. When he joined Chris's team, he was in goal. And now Brad is like pretty much one of the named starters on the England squad. And that's because of how well he's progressed, both individually and in the team formation. And that's kind of like, I don't like to say it because it's Chris, but I kind of like want to be Chris when it comes to a manager side of things, because he's done great things with the squad, and he's won so much, as a manager. And so, I want to be at that level one day. And so kind of lockdown's come at a good time for me, because it's allowed me to focus on that managerial side of things. I know what I'm doing on the pitch, but kind of when we go to training, I kind of go with ideas, but maybe not fresh ideas. And so the last 6 months or whatever has given me a chance to build up my portfolio of training techniques and stuff. And so when we go back to training, my team's got a lot of work to do, put it that way.
Well, I don't doubt the fact that I'm sure you will get to the level of coaching that's required, and you already have that mindset, and it's exactly how I feel in terms of playing in England and going down. You get a lot of people that are like, that may want to kind of question you and see can this guy do it? Is a Scottish guy coming down? And my mindset is the opinion of that it's a when, not an if, as to when I'm in a conversation with the likes of yourself and other people, and people might listen to that and be like, that's a bold statement to me, but I say it because I know like myself and Logan are putting in that work and putting in that kind of time. So it's when you're doing it, when you're working harder than most people, it's inevitable. It's not a question of if you're going to do it.
Exactly, mate. You only get out of life what you put in, and if if someone wants to sit at home and not do anything, then they're not going to improve. Your talent, or at whatever level you're at, will always be there, but you'll never progress if you don't put in the effort yourself.
Exactly, and I wanted to move away from football a little bit and talk about, obviously you're a dad and you're married and these things, and yeah, that's a really nice picture there.
Yeah, it's a good girl.
But a lot of these things, maybe a lot of people in wheelchairs and people with disabilities feel that that's not really reachable. We're not really encouraged to believe that we can live that kind of normal life. And how much of a kind of challenge was that to you in terms of getting over that barrier of thinking, can I have this, or how, why do you think people feel that way about it? Why is it that maybe perhaps there's people that feel that they can't have that life that you have off the pitch?
Potentially because they've been told that rather than explore it for themselves, or they've chosen to just bury their head in the sand, like, oh, I can't do this, so I'm not going to even try. My parents have always driven that into me, that we always strive to get what we want. And we're a very, very close family. And so I always wanted that for myself. My parents have done a great job for me and my sisters. And so I want to be my dad, basically, like you said before. My dad's a massive influence on my life, both football and off it. And I just want to be the man that he is for me, to my daughter and my wife, And so, I always knew that I wanted to be a dad. I always knew I wanted to have a house and get married. Kind of like, that's what my life is about. And so I never had anyone say, oh, you couldn't do that. On the child front, because of my condition, it was kind of 50-50 whether my daughter would have my condition or not. And for me, that was kind of a potential stumbling block, whether I had a child or not, because I know how much my wife helps me. I kind of felt like I didn't want that burden on my wife to have a disabled child and disabled husband to put in, she needs to live her life as well, And so potentially that was a stumbling block, but touch wood, obviously Hallie came along and we had the test, because we can have the test at 12 weeks and it will test whether Hallie had my chromosome or not, which has caused a defect in my body. Obviously my central core myopathy, for anyone that didn't know, that's my condition, and it's basically a muscle condition, mainly my legs. I can't build them up to the strength of the able-bodied person, which is why I use leg braces. So yeah, at 12 weeks we could test whether she had the condition or not, and you do the test and you have to wait a week, and that week of my life was the worst, I could tell you. Not knowing that the child that's growing inside your wife is basically going to live or not, based on the outcome, was tough. But like I say, thankfully she came out all well, and she's now 5, giving me a run around, put me in my place.
How much do you think that's kind of changed you as a person?
Oh, a lot, mate, a lot. First of all, the love you feel for a child is love that you've probably never ever experienced in your life again. Just to know that person's going to rely on you throughout the rest of your life, and know that they look up to you for everything, just like for a drink, without you they won't get that. And so it's just give you that more responsibility, and I thrive on responsibility, whether it's for a job, football, captaincy, running a home. I soak that up, and I want to meet her targets. Like, I want to see her do well in her life, and I want to make sure that everything possible I can give her, I'll give her, to allow her to achieve that, which is what my parents done for me. I just want to carry that on, and so hopefully, she'll become maybe, a woman footballer. She could earn in the pounds by that stage. She'll be earning a load of money. She can bring it home for me.
You never know. I wanted to talk about that because, like you said, maybe people have been told that they can't have that kind of life, and it was definitely something that at some point I believed was a marriage, which was not. It was nothing to do with whether I could or couldn't. It was more to do with what I thought about my disability and how I felt about myself. And so it's kind of trying to change the perception that, having a disability doesn't mean. Cause I know a lot of people that can walk and run and have all the aesthetics you could ever want, but they have they have problems, in relationships and things like that, and it's not always as simple as, if I could walk or if I could this or that, I would have this normal life. It's not as simple as that. It's more about you and your character and your personality and how you come across.
Every relationship has a challenge, regardless whether it's a physical disability or whether it's financial, if it's anything. Every marriage or every relationship has challenges. Being disabled it will always be the challenge for the person that is disabled, but for the partner or the wife or whatever, they're happy if they love you. Whatever they need to do to support you, and to allow them to be a great husband or wife, and live happily together, and there's no way no disabled person, well, every disabled person can get married. That there is absolutely nothing stopping them doing so. They just got to find the right person that is right for them and they're right for the person. There is somewhere out there for everyone, I'm sure of that. But just because maybe the first or second relationship didn't work, it doesn't mean give up.
Yeah.
There is someone for everyone out there.
And the thing about that is, it seems obvious to like myself and you with how your life is, but there's a lot of people out there that maybe that it's good for them to hear that. It's good for them to hear that from somebody that's actually done it and achieved it.
And even from the kids side of things, like if you can't, have kids, it doesn't mean you can't adopt a kid or foster a kid. They'll then still see you as a father and to have that responsibility that I was talking about and the love that you have for a child. There is, if you want something, there is stuff out there for you to have. And like I say, if you want the marriage is easy from a disabled point of view. There is nothing stopping any disability getting married if you find the right person, And from the kids, obviously the adoption process isn't easy, but there is a route there for you if you can't technically have kids.
Yeah.
And so you could have every life that I've got, like, well, not bigging my life up, but family, kids, house, there is nothing stopping any person with any condition out there.
Exactly. I couldn't agree more. So to switch back to football a little bit, you've been in the sport a long time and you've achieved a lot of things. Now, you spoke about maybe the next tournament or so being maybe potentially your last because you get a couple of things to tick off. What as you kind of go on and maybe look at your kind of final few years and as a player, what are the kind of things that you want to pass on to the next generation? What piece of advice do you want to? What's the message from John Bolden to the rest of the younger players coming up?
The hard work and dedication that I want them to put in, because I want the England team to be the best it can be, regardless of whether I'm in it or not. I want to see them winning World Cup after World Cup after World Cup, year after year after year. And so I know how many great young players we've got in the world, and so I just want them to believe in themselves, train as hard as they can, obviously, when we get back to training, and with the right support network around them. And like I say, how the sport has progressed over the years, the amount that's going to be there for them in the next 5 years, as in like coaching staff, as in FA pathways, there's going to be so much out there for them to pick up on and run with to make them better as players. They've just got to believe in themselves, and the stuff is out there for them to be the great player that hopefully they will be.
Couldn't agree more, and I think that's a really fitting point to finish on. I really appreciate your time and coming on. I really enjoyed this conversation.
Matt, I've loved it. Thanks, and thanks for what you're doing for the community, and your podcasts are awesome, mate. And keep up the good work, and hopefully I'll see you on the pitch next year or this year, whenever hopefully it'll be.
Well, hopefully, thank you for the nice words there. I'm trying my best. The phrase "be the change you want to see" comes to mind, and that's what I'm trying to do, and shed a light on some things that maybe perhaps people don't understand about disability or know about. So again, I appreciate all your support and coming on in this conversation. As I say, really enjoyed it and took a lot from it for myself as well, and I'm sure the rest of the Powerchair football community will too.
And that's one thing I say also. If anyone does want to contact me personally regarding anything, whether it's football, whether it's personal life, whether it's anything, I'm always here. And so I just want people to know that, like, don't feel, oh, it's John Bolden, you know, you can't approach him. I'm just like you, and just talk to me.
Yeah.
You know.
And I'm sure now your DMs are going to be full after that comment.
Hopefully it's ladies.
We'll have to hopefully your wife doesn't hear that. But where can we find you then, John? On that note,
I think on Instagram as well. But yeah, mainly on Facebook. And obviously, if people want my email, it's john@balding8@gmail.com. Send me an email and we'll go from there.
Okay, well, thank you again, John. It's been a pleasure.
No worries, my man. Thanks a lot, and look after yourself.
A reminder that this podcast is sponsored by Kyle Financial, who are currently offering free wills for everyone, even if you're not a client. Don't be in the 60% of adults that are will. Call Kyle Financial on 0141 447 0290 or email advice@kylefinancial.co.uk for more information.
Hope you all enjoyed the episode with John. I know I took a lot from it when he was talking about captaining England, having captained Scotland for the first time back in February. And I hope that we can meet one day on opposite ends of the pitch in a big tournament, captaining each other's countries. That would be really surreal to be doing that with John. So hopefully one day that can be a reality. But next week we are joined by Paralympic legend Stephen Miller. He has won 6 gold medals at the Paralympics, and he goes through how he had to overcome a lot of different injuries and different situations to achieve what he did achieve in his sport. And it was really a pleasure to talk to somebody who has achieved so much, and the way that he's done it with his mentality and his work ethic was very impressive. So I hope you'll enjoy that next weekend at 12 o'clock with Stephen Miller via Spotify, iTunes and YouTube. Be sure to support All About Ability in any way you can. Really appreciated. And I hope you all have a good week. See you then.